Gang hang. Gold Adamantium. What the fuck is Gold Adamantium? I got.
Well, it doesn't. Now hold on.
I got it. I like.
Nobody said it's adamantium.
Yeah. Oh yes, Joe.
No, it's adamantine.
Adamantine, which is different.
Oh,
Different.
God.
It's an
Adamantine is what Hercules' mace is made
I'm even
of.
more frustrated now, but let's get into it. In the latest issue of Wolverine, Joe and I talked about. Well, first of all, just so you know, there's a collectible warning. So if you didn't pick it up, you're
Highly collectible. Yeah.
you're screwing up. You got to get out there and collect this thing right now, you guys. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've got a new gold bad guy, I guess, that just appeared.
We don't really
Isn't it
understand
cyber?
what it is yet.
Isn't it cyber with gold?
Well, he's possessed.
Cyber is in it, and at the end, Cyber
He's possessed by
is
something.
gold.
Gold.
Also, he might be dead, and it might be puppeting around his dead body.
Yeah,
It's unclear.
We don't know.
Spoilers for Wolverine number one from last week. Sorry, guys.
Now I just want Wolverine versus Gold Member.
Fair enough. It may be coming.
So yeah, there's a lot of discussion about, like, no one has said this is adamantium. Nobody. But it did react to, like, the feeling or I don't know if the sound. It must have been close by because it was close enough to get to
It was in the
Cyber.
cave. It was in the cave.
So it was close by, and so it reacted to, like, the clashing of the adamantium together. It woke up from its deep dark sleep, and so now this gold metal, whatever it is, whether it's adamantine or something else, again, we don't know that either.
We don't know for sure, but we have seen gold adamantine in the pages of Astonishing X-Men number 44.
But that was adamantine, not adamantium.
Yes.
Yeah.
In
And that was
Astonishing
also,
X-Men, the alternate universe Wolverine had adamantine claws.
yeah.
Here's the other thing. This thing is saying, ooh, I don't like that fake metal. Ooh, I'm mad at that fake metal. And we know that adamantium is adamantine and titanium, right? Fused.
That's
Or something?
about as far wrong as you could be.
Okay.
I guess you could have called it ketchup and mustard fused. But
What is
no.
it fused with? It's fused with
It's
something.
vibranium and
Vibranium.
it's vibranium and
Are you in a mood today, by the way? What is this about?
no titanium and adamantine. Where you just pull that out of thin air. No, it is a metal alloy created by Myron McLean, where he fused, I believe, steel with vibranium.
Okay.
Or something of that nature.
Well,
I think it was actually disproven later that vibranium is not part of it. But it is a metal alloy.
Because that makes
Right.
Captain America's shield not make any sense. Because if adamantium is technically a vibranium alloy, then why is Captain America's shield so special, being a combination of vibranium and adamantium?
No, yeah, it's Captain America's shield. Yeah, right, exactly. Captain America's shield is. Oh, that's right. That's right. My mistake. Captain America's shield is made out of a vibranium adamantium alloy.
Would you say you're about as wrong as you could be at this point, or
No, because adamantine was never involved
just for
in it.
clarity? Just for clarity.
But adamantium is, I believe, is not man-made. I think it's discovered. Let me double check.
Okay, regardless of all this, the blob in the cave doesn't like the metal that Wolverine and Cyber are wearing and prefers a shade
Wait,
of gold.
what's Fred Dukes have to do with this?
No, not
The
that
blob.
blob. Not that blob. This is a different blob.
Sorry.
It's sort of an alien
being
egg
silly.
molten thing that barfs all over Cyber and makes him gold.
Does the gold get hot? This is what I want to know.
It does.
Are we going to have
I wish.
Brian,
gold hot claws?
I hope
'Cause
so.
If not, what are we
Brian,
even doing?
I will say, when we first see weird gold blobby monster, it looks very molten, kind of hot. Yes.
It's
Good.
liquid at the very least.
Yeah, it's
I
liquid
want,
at the
I
least.
want hot gold claws. That's what I want.
That's what we need.
Wait, is it hot or do you
All
just
right.
find it
So here we
attractive?
go. Adamantium.
Sexy. I find it
is-
sexy. I want to, JD, I want to put my tongue in its mouth.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. I'm not going to get
Adamantium.
slutty, but I will French kiss it.
Adamantium is a metal alloy created by the same guy who created Cap's shield. It was created when he fell asleep at his lab bench, and the metals he was working with somehow bonded together.
It's like, well, how are they
The
going to bond?
alloy,
Like,
a
I don't know.
combination of steel, vibranium,
Let's
and
just
an
say it-
unknown catalyst, created a material stronger than any yet known.
So, like-
However, without knowing the exact ingredients and their proportions, McLean can never duplicate the process.
So the Marvel bullpen is sitting there going, well, how do we explain this happened? Like, I don't know. He fell asleep when he woke up. Kapow. You know, like, and they're like, all right, yeah, kids are dumb. They'll buy it. Yeah.
I wrote the greatest story ever told by smashing my head on the keyboard.
Right. Exactly. Well, but that also explains why it's so hard to do
Marvel
it again.
has
That's why it's
changed
so hard.
what adamantium really is over and over again over the years, and so the history is.
They just changed the origin of Cap's shield like a year or two ago.
Didn't we do a whole extra when we went into like the metallurgy of adamantium and tried to figure it out? And by the end, we're like, well, sorry we wasted your time, folks, but we don't know anything.
I don't think so.
I think we did.
So yeah, the original adamantium created by Dr. McLean is known as proto-adamantium, the official name for the metal that makes up Captain America's shield.
So speaking of Wolverine #1, Matt, before you came on, I brought up that the description of the story reminds me of an old X-Men classic story with Wolverine and Nightcrawler hanging out in the Canadian wilderness against Wendigo. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's happened a few times, but yes.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the one that's got that classic white cover with Wolverine and his claws and Nightcrawler teleporting behind him.
I'm looking for it right now, and I cannot find the cover. I know exactly what you're talking
I
about.
think it's like 15.
Anyway, you were saying, I'll look for it.
X-Men's. I was telling Joe and the guys that I'm like Wolf, like because of the lake house, I only have one of the From the Ashes actual books. And strangely enough, it's Uncanny, not X-Men. They brought that one to Unlimited first.
Really?
Which is weird.
Yeah, I know. It's strange, right?
It's almost like they listened.
Huh.
But overall, hearing you guys describe the From the Ashes and hearing some of your criticisms, I have to take issue a little bit with the sudden status quo change, because like that's all new X-Men stories. I mean, going back to Whedon, going back to Grant Morrison, and suddenly they're in black leather and doing like aid work, and then Whedon's Astonishing feels like an Elseworlds.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with any of that.
Dawn is an emergency break. I mean, seriously, It's like one day they're doing this, and the next day the world has changed.
No, I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just saying we're 4 issues deep in X-Men right now. We're 4 issues deep, and I'm still kind of like, well, what's our direction here? What are we doing? And by the way, art change in issue 4 too. Like, really?
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Stegman couldn't make it 4 issues?
Overall,
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
Oh, I was
gonna go back and wrap up that earlier thought. But you go ahead.
Well, hold on. Let's finish this, then we'll derail it.
Go ahead, Matt or Joe.
Okay, so according to MarvelFandom.com, which is typically a pretty reliable authority on these matters, the substance that makes up Captain America's shield is technically known as proto-adamantium. It is a combination of. I
forgot about
that.
I
mean, it called that retroactively because obviously there was no such thing as adamantium at the time.
Right.
It was made up of vibranium, steel, and an unknown catalyst that fused the three together.
Silly putty.
While he fell asleep at the desk.
Yeah.
And he was never able to recreate it. And when he woke up, he had barely enough time to pour it into a shape. And all he could find was like this disc mold, and that's the legend of Captain America's shield.
Neat.
True adamantium, which is what Wolverine has, Lady Deathstrike, Cyber, etc., was born out of attempts to recreate Captain America's shield without vibranium. And it is, on par, almost as indestructible as Cap's shield. I mean, your mileage may vary. I'm sure there are stories where Captain America's shield gets fucked up and Wolverine doesn't.
Oh yeah, it breaks all the time, and he's like, "Oh my god!"
There's three slash marks from an infamous story,
right?
Infamous cover.
Well, that's the paint. It's painted. So,
is it just
which is something
okay.
I think I get a kick out of that is the idea that after like every battle, Cap's got to spend an hour. 1 to 5 hours late at night in his apartment repainting the stripes on his shield.
They've got like shield agents that do that,
he makes Jarvis do it.
Yeah. I'm sure
Jarvis has to
get to that point. Yeah, I have a butler. You do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I imagine Tony's got a robot that does it. And it just looks like an auto body shop.
I mean, you can no prize any number of explanations.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Adamantium was created when Myron McClane tried to recreate Cap's shield. And it's like, well, I couldn't do it, but I did come up with this other stuff, which is almost as good and nearly as impossible to work with.
Okay, let's go back to Gold Admanite. Does anybody remember this story from Astonishing X-Men 44? Because I had definitely quit reading Astonishing X-Men.
Adamantine is mythical. It is a god metal.
Specifically,
what Hercules' mace is made out of.
But in Astonishing X-Men 44,
in Greek myth outside of Marvel Comics.
Right.
Yeah, and yes, I do remember that that particular run of Astonishing X-Men, which is essentially like the Exiles.
Yeah, I remember people talking about it at the time.
He had the gold claws. He had adamantine claws, but he was from an alternate Earth.
It was less about that, and it was more about the fact that he was actually shacking up with Herc, and that they were lovers. And that was the thing that everyone was kind of like,
that's right. Yeah, he was gay. Wolverine was gay.
That's where he got his claws. Was his lover gave him his mace. What? As part of the process so Wolverine's claws in that universe were actually coated with Hercules' mace melted down because it was basically like a warrior's engagement ring.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Okay, so but it was
did he get his start in Astonishing X-Men, or did he? I think that there was an actual volume of Exiles that had him in it.
That I don't know.
Well, this is Astonishing X-Men. I don't know what's going on here, but it says it's not that. Are here to put the Astonishing back in the X-Men. Storm needs Cyclops' help with a special mission, but it ends up being much more than they bargained for. Oh, and they kiss. What? The biggest, most exciting X-Men story in years starts here. So I guess they kiss. That's what happens in that issue. I don't know.
Because, I mean, I've seen the panels where the Gold Claws Wolverine shows up, and that Cyclops is not acting normal either. Like, he's not it's not our 616 Cyclops.
They reveal that it isn't. Everybody's acting weird. Mark Stern, Howlett was the name of the character. Instead of Wolverine or Logan, they called him Howlett. Yes, and he was okay. It's vaguely coming back to me. I did not read much of this because I was
Astonishing X-Men 45. You got the wrong issue.
I was done.
I just reread it last week, so it's fresh.
Okay, it's fresh. Talk to us about it. What the hell was going on?
Okay, so I don't exactly remember how it starts off, but Cyclops basically wakes up. He's in a canister or a cylinder,
right?
And every time he uses his eye blast to try and escape, the prison basically sucks the mutant power, and they use that to repower the planet, which was ripped apart when Magneto died.
Okay.
And when they finally get out, he finds himself like he walks into another part of the prison or the building, and he finds an entire room filled with like dead Cyclops visors, because they've basically been taking alternate parallel universe mutants and siphoning their power to stay alive on their planet.
Yeah, there was like a mutant battery thing.
Yeah, and so that's where you get like Storm, and she's making out with like Cyclops, because she knows he's not her Cyclops, but basically, yeah. So he's in on it from the get-go, pretty much. They explain it to him. There's a kid Nightcrawler running around that helps him out. And then at the very end, like he just basically jumps off the planet. He gets back to his own universe, and they're like, "What'd you do?" And he's like, "Oh, they're X-Men. They'll figure it out. That's good." And that's it.
Okay. All right.
And so the team I was thinking of was it was actually a rebooted version of Extreme X-Men, and it was all characters from alternate realities. So it was a version of Nightcrawler, except his name was Kurt Wagoner. Dazzler from, I think, the 616. Emmeline Frost Summers, General James Howlett, and Charles Xavier. And yeah, they were a team. And yeah, so I remember that for sure. That cover, that Extreme X-Men. Let me see if I can get that into the chat.
So regardless of this, I think let's go back to what you were saying, JD. The overarching X relaunch so far. We're about 4 months in.
Yeah. The thing I like about it is it feels ambitious to me in a different way than Hickman, because it just feels like you've got disparate people just trying stuff, just playing out there, like the Dazzler thing. I was like, that sounds interesting to me. I like the idea of. Now, I disagree that Madrox hasn't been mopey since Peter David. If you look back at like X Corp, even during the Krakoa era,
self-correction, he was not. Self-correction, he is not in the X Factor book.
No.
Yeah.
And so this is Jamie Madrox, presumably,
I guess.
Yeah, and Madrox's way of handling like intense despair and grumpy, like dark shit is just to be stupid and go and his personality is a lot like Clint Barton, in my opinion. He's just kind of the eternal fuck up.
Yeah, he might be, but they're not doing any of that with him here. He is literally a side character that doesn't even have any lines. He's just
what?
Thing is he was that way, and and he was that way in X Corp too. I mean, there was like a handful.
He's been sidelined for a while. I agree.
The camera cut to him working in the labs, and he was just happy to have something for his dupes to do. Sure. And that was it. That's all we had of him in Krakoa.
And I don't disagree. Look, this is not a big jump.
He hasn't been a leading man since that version of X Factor.
This is not a big jump for Dazzler or anything like that. This makes sense. It's perfectly logical. I get that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just saying overarching. We're 4 issues in on X-Men. The last issue is basically a beat 'em up issue where we're dealing with everybody thinks that mutants are contagious now because they saw something on TV, and that's all that's really going on in that book. And the art has been weird, and we just had an art change. And then
I don't know. I think that's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big plot. Is people are now freaking out because mutants are appearing outside of the previously understood window.
Sure. And we don't know why. And spoiler alert, but I don't know. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not.
I mean, we still don't know why. We still don't know why it happened.
The book's not doing much.
There was a guest artist in issue 4, which I thought it looked better. I don't know.
I don't think it looked. I thought
you know what? I don't remember who drew issue 4. I think I'm thinking of the David Marquez promo art for the crossover.
That looked great
because I saw that beast and I was like, nah, that's more like it.
This was that Nico. What's his name? Nico Diaz or something like that, I think is the name.
I don't remember much about. I don't remember anything about the art in X-Men number 4. It didn't leave much of an impression.
Sorry, Netho Diaz. And it's different, but not great either. It looks like they're trying to stick kind of close to a Stegman type style, and I don't know. I think Uncanny is stronger, but also what are we doing?
I think my thing with this from the Ashes era too, that I'm also maybe more optimistic about, and this is probably just my usual Pollyanna, Marvel apologist BS, but one thing that I do feel like I'm seeing in the lineups and the way the books are coming out, the way the books are listed is, I think where Dawn of X in the Krakoa era felt like you had to read everything. And in this one, I really do feel like I could just read Gail Simone's Uncanny and be pretty happy.
Absolutely.
And not have to worry about Jed McKay's X-Men.
That's the idea. 100. I mean, no question. They're like, let's fire out a shotgun of X-Men books that you can read. And like a Dazzler one is definitely for younger readers. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. great.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever. It's not for me. Uncanny, I think, is the highest quality one that's coming out so far. X Factor, I read number 2 this morning, and X Factor 1 I really thought was funny and fun. And X Factor 2, they're kind of still really leaning into it, and it's getting a little harder to believe. You know, like why is Havoc doing this if he knows how fucking dumb everybody is? You know, like it's still funny and fun, but like, you know, so far it's
just to address real quick what Todd posted in the chat. Yes, they are hinting together that they're hinting that the teams will come together with all the phone clops back and forth to Cyclops.
Yeah.
That's true because they have already announced the first From the Ashes crossover between Uncanny and X-Men coming up. I guess December, right?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
And it will, and it's going to be it's just a 4-part crossover, nothing huge, and it's just those 2 books, and it's going to be them trying to take back the X-Mansion from whatever shady government agency has it.
From that prison thing,
Yeah, Grey Malkin prison.
Yeah. Brian, you're reading this. We're the only ones talking about it. What do you think about this X stuff so far?
I think it's a real mixed bag. I thought there are so many books, and they just, every month I think there's 1 or 2 new books.
Yeah.
And they're coming out really fast.
We get Sentinels and Mystique next, I think.
Yeah, and then we've got like the Cable book, and then there's another
cover for the Cable
there
book.
were solicitations this week. There's another one for like December. Like there's like 2 new ones. So far, like
that Cable cover was outstanding.
It's so good. I don't know.
I mean,
that dude
Ian
still
Churchill,
makes me squeal like a pig every time I like. And Ian Churchill, by no means like the best, but he's that one 90s dude that can just draw people so huge it's ridiculous. And I go, fuck yeah, more, make him bigger.
The reason I really started getting back into X-Men comics was his Cable book. Like there's just something about that square head that just works.
Love it.
And,
I love it.
He's drawn a lot of stuff recently that has not looked good, but that was like, right in the veins. There's a lot of books right now. I think, unfortunately, you can kind of judge them by the cover in a weird way of like, oh, I don't think I'm going to like that one.
Don't disagree.
You get to the end of X-Force and you're like, what the hell is the point of this book? Like, it's just like the costumes suck. The book is kind of pointless. There's like, no one has anything to say. It's just like, Ford just sending us on a mission and these 2 are dating. It's like, okay, like
the X-Force book. The X-Force book is kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, so Forge,
I don't know. I think it's good.
Forge made a magic 8-ball that goes, there's a problem. The Earth's going to blow up if you don't go here. Like, all right, fine.
I feel like in a lot of these books, you don't need to read the issue. You could read a 2-sentence synopsis and it will tell you exactly what happened that issue.
I agree.
Like it's Forge's a mission and they're going to go. It's like they did. And there's not a memorable moment in it. I don't know is Marcus Toe still drawing it after 2 issues? I don't remember, like the costumes are not inspired and everybody kind of looks the same. And there's a bunch of women. And if they didn't have different hair colors, I think you couldn't tell the difference. And
no, absolutely. Cause it's like, it's Sage and Cyclops and whatever. And they're all sort of tall and long and lithe and wearing boots and they're all in amazing shape, but they have slightly different haircuts. Okay.
I did think NYX is sort of better than I expected, but also those are good writers, like they have a long history of doing a lot with a little bit. And so I think like the second issue had that whole, the cuckoo narration thing. And she was kind of shoving the book along. And I thought that was better than like a meandering, like, what do I do in the world? I don't know. She's just like, we're doing this. And this is what we're doing. And like the pushiness, I think is effective because we're not spending time with Miss Marvel being like, oh, shucks, New York City.
That's like, what I thought. God. Because that's what the first issue kind of was. And I went, I'm not really interested in that. And then when we see, this student of Emma who would act just like this because she's one of Emma's prize students, it's like, no, girl, come on. We're doing this. And I went, okay. This is more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
No. I really liked Exceptional X-Men. I thought Exceptional X-Men was very good. Number 1.
I didn't dislike it. I just don't know how much more I need to read.
That's kind of where I was at. I thought it was fine.
If that was like a second story and like a giant size thing, I'd be like, yeah, it was good. Like it's well written and nice art and pleasant and, you know, an action scene and like it had all the parts. But the idea of like, there's going to be new characters. It's like, well, Uncanny has all those new characters too. And I don't know, like I still don't know any of the like that new X-Men group, like Surge and Hellion and all that. Like my brain refused to remember any of them from 20 years ago. And so the idea that they're going to give us 25 new characters, I'm just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Unless it's a dude with a rock face, I'm not going to remember them. So
I think they're trying to address a criticism that some readers have had about the X-Men, which is the
absolutely,
fact that
JD. They are
dealing with the same. What?
Yeah, they are. You're 100% right. I say I'm one that criticizes them for it all the time. Where I'm like, don't give me another group of brand new mutants. You've got all these mutants to draw on. But I'll say, with that said, I'm kind of on Brian's side with some of these mutants, where I'm like, well, do we have to draw on those?
JD, is that what you were going to say?
You know, like, do we have to draw on those?
No, it was the opposite of that. It was the fact that we keep talking about mutants in the world, but we still keep talking about the same 15 or 20.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
And so, like, in, you know, getting new characters, is how you get new readers. Maybe it's not how you make a Brian or Matt happy, but it's how you get new readers.
Yes.
And I think having younger mutants come back in. Now, I know that's the mythical thing, and it, you know, comic shop owners will tell you it doesn't work, but if they put these out on Marvel Unlimited, if they put these out on, you know, as they do them as, you know, Infinity Comics, as much as we hate them, you know, this Dazzler book, I think might get in some younger readers and some, you know, more you know, that type of thing. I hope that works. Also, I'm kind of excited for new mutants. I'm excited for new characters.
I'm always up for new mutant characters, and I really don't understand the criticism. Like, I don't expect anybody to remember them all.
These aren't new characters.
The names of the new X-Men. That's a bad example. I can't remember.
These aren't new characters.
All of the new X-Men.
That's the thing. But these are old characters.
What am I all time?
No, but I mean the outliers and the characters in Exceptional X-Men. Like there was the character when they did Generation Hope. Those characters were all new at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I can't remember the names of any of them either, except for Hope. I
mean, I remember. Armor is still one of my favorite X characters.
I love Armor.
And now she's headlining a book, although it's in Ultimate. But I thought Wayne was an amazing character. I still think that counts
for a character to become well known enough to have to be the lead in an Ultimate version. That speaks to that character. I understand that Ultimate X-Men is not everyone's cup of tea.
Anybody
and
still
it's very,
reading
very, very different.
Is anyone still reading Ultimate X-Men?
I haven't.
I haven't started yet, but that's just because of Lake House and
I read.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that a character as new as Armor, Marvel was like, she's the lead. Like, I think that's pretty cool. And I think with a concept like mutants, like the idea that there wouldn't be new mutants every time you swing a dead cat is silly. Of course, there's going to be always new mutants. That's kind of the X-Men's whole job.
Sure. That's not but that's not the point. I think Brian and myself were kind of trying to make. It's like the characters we're focusing on aren't that interesting. They're just not.
But that's not the point. That's not what you said, though.
Why? Says
okay, then I take it back. Whatever.
Are you just
no, I mean, no, that's fine if that's what you feel, but that's not what you said. You said
what's not interesting.
You said new equals grump.
Sure. No,
you didn't say that you didn't think they were interesting.
Some of them I think are
fine.
great.
And if that's what you think, then that's fine. And I think that's perfectly valid to think that. I mean, I don't necessarily agree. I also think that like there's somebody out there that sees that kid in Exceptional X-Men #1. There's a word for whatever she is, whatever she's dressed like that anime weird outfit.
There's a word for whatever she is.
Is it the hyper-focus one?
The girl that turned into bronze.
She's dressed like an
anime character.
Yeah, she's cosplaying.
Yeah, she's like an e-girl.
But she's not cosplaying because that's just how she looks. That's just her normal fashion.
Are you talking? Is she dressed like Harajuka?
Dude, I don't fucking know what that is.
Yes, I sure.
But yeah, I mean,
But yeah,
like,
she's
you
in a
know, like
very
look at
youthful fashion
JD, like you
style.
at least seen the promos for Exceptional X-Men.
Yeah.
She's the girl that with the bronze skin, and she's dressed in this weird anime outfit. She's like she's like the sort of kid from like 10 years ago that would show up in public wearing a hoodie with cat ears on it. And even back then, I was in my mid 30s. I'd be like, okay.
Joe,
Joe,
the term you're looking for is weirdo. That's what you're looking for.
Sure.
No, it's a weeaboo.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Damon. Thank you. And so, like, I mean, but there are people. But there are, in theory, there's a part of the audience out there that's like, I relate to this character because that's me.
Well, let me put it this way. I have seen the promo stuff, and I do know something about the new characters. And I'll put it in terms of something that another X-Men expert talks about, Jay Edidin, when he talks about the X-Men metaphor as disability politics.
Sure.
And there's a new character on on Exceptional X-Men that basically their mutant power is ADHD. They have the ability to hyper focus. As someone who
that's the one. Thank you, Frank.
I just had to fucking fight with my pharmacy over getting my ADHD meds filled. And seeing that, like that, I mean, I'm 46 years old. I don't need to see myself in a child character, but just knowing that if I were that age and saw that in a comic book and said, oh, I could be an X-Man, you know, that's important to me. I think that's cool. And that's what we need to be doing with the X-Men anymore.
Sure.
I don't think young readers are seeing themselves in Cyclops anymore.
No, I agree.
Just because they wear glasses.
Right. You know, they're not going to the malt shop and
so let me ask you guys this. Let me ask you guys this. Would you say that this is a fair statement that the X franchise has a bad track record of dumping a bunch of new characters into books and onto readers that we never talk about again in 6 months or after that run? Yes or no?
I don't think that that's a yes or no question. I think that the X-Men books have a track record of dropping a bunch of new characters into their universe, and then the ones that people think are cool stick around, and the ones that don't never get talked about again.
Brian, what do you think about that question?
As you're saying that, I'm trying to think back to different eras and remembering, you know, when this has happened. And I think it is a little bit, you know, I think it's true. I think it does happen when, you know, like, you know, Joe, you mentioned Generation Hope, like they did I think there were 5 characters and one of them is in X-Men.
I just remember the naked blue girl.
You know, yeah. So like, there's a bunch of them, and like I read those, and and it was Kieran Gillen, and they were fine. Like, but there's something about, I think it's the volume at the moment. Like, there's a lot of them, and I understand all the parts. So
is you guys' argument that the fact that you don't like the fact that they introduce new characters and the new characters don't stick around?
Not at all. My problem is they short shrift all these characters.
Where's Sunfire?
Would it be better if they did stick around?
Yeah, possibly. We got to know them a little bit.
Sunfire right
maybe.
Now?
Would you? So you would be happier if you had to care about today 50 characters, and then in 5 years 60 characters, and then in
I'm saying
10 years 80 characters.
I think if they do so Uncanny at the end. So we get Uncanny, right? And it's the new flagship book, and they've got all, you know, your favorites are like literally your favorites are in there. And then you get to the end, and it's like what, 5 or 6? I don't remember how many. 4 to 6 new characters, and then like great, okay, 4 to 6 new characters. We've seen that cover coming up of the crossover. So they're like in costumes and they're teammates. Yeah. And that's great. But then you get Exceptional, which is about, oh, it's Kitty and Emma and all these new characters. And it's like, all right, so then there's a bunch of new ones over there. Like, we're kind of scattered with newness in it's like an untested newness. And I don't know when we get to the end of it, how much interest is there going to be, and how much of their time are they wasting introducing these new characters that are not going to go anywhere? And I know that there's an opportunity for that, like the Phalanx thing way back in the 90s. They introduced all the Generation X characters before, and I thought that was a really interesting that, you know, like I love those characters, part of it because I was, 14, but they did give them an opportunity to grow and live in that book. You know, like that story introduced them in a way that you like by the time the first issue launched by a great writer and a fantastic artist, like we hit the ground running, like they were ready to roll. And now it's like, it's a lot of stuff where they're just there. And
well, I think the difference between the exceptional book and the uncanny book is what I was talking about earlier. Is you can pick which one you want to read. You don't have to read both of them and be overwhelmed.
Of course.
If you like the girl with the horse, read exceptional. If you like the guy with the black hole for a chest, read uncanny. You know.
If you're a horse girl, read that one.
Okay. All right. All right.
Uncanny X-Men, perfect for horse girls.
This is all good discussion.
The horse girl's in exceptional.
Let's put a pin in this.
No, the horse girl is in uncanny.
She's in uncanny.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got like gold energy armor and a sword and stuff, something like that.
She'll go to a comic shop and read one of these books.
She'll be around for 3 more issues.
Your point stands, JD. Is that it? But like, I agree with you, and I think that Brian makes some good points. I think Matt, as usual, is being outrageous, but that's just my brand. That's my job to always disagree with him, whether it's justified or not. So you take that with a grain of salt.
Pre-existing condition.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, I've got a raging case of the bomb.
Absolutely.
We talked about this when you were figuring out your computer, Matt. It's just there's no hope for me. My insurance won't cover it. I just have to suffer. I think that my last thought, and we can move on.
Because I want to talk about the Penguin and Agatha after this.
But my last thought on this is that I think the key difference between what we're seeing now and what we saw in 1990, whatever, with Generation X, 1993. First, the market's way different. Second, those characters all were huge hits with fans, and Generation X was a hit. And I think if any one of these other concepts had been as big a hit as Generation X had been back in the 90s, at least in terms of like fan response, we wouldn't see Marvel trying so hard every 5 years or so.
Of course. Yeah. Totally agree.
And so you talk about, them doing this so often, but Generation Hope was a decade ago. New X-Men was almost 20 years ago. The New Mutants revival, I should say, which became New X-Men Academy X.
Yeah.
No, the deer girl is different, Matt. That's a girl with antlers.
Oh, you're right. That's a different girl. That's not the horse girl.
When did we get Quentin Quire? Was that
Quentin Quire was Grant Morrison's New X-Men.
Yeah.
And Quentin Quire, we saw the Cuckoos but Grant Morrison introduced Glob Herman, the Cuckoos,
Beak,
Quentin Quire. Hey, look, I love Beak. I don't like. Todd made a joke about Beak in the chat, and that's the whole reason why I wanted to bring it back up. But Grant Morrison did it as well.
Bug wings.
And so
the Cuckoos too. That was Grant
Angel.
Morrison. The Cuckoos.
Right, Angel. The less we say about Angel, the second Angel, the better.
Oh Angel and those eggs in that barn.
Oh God, the egg laying. God,
it's beautiful. Those beautiful little babies.
All right, let's talk about Agatha. This is good. Wait, but like we're gonna.
Let's talk about seen Agatha yet, so I might have to log off.
Fair enough. Okay. I mean, we don't have to spoil anything.
We'll just keep it spoiler light because it did just come out on Wednesday.
What are we going to spoil? Yeah.
There's nothing to spoil.
Yeah, there's nothing to spoil at this point. It's not like, whoa, man, when Mephisto does show up, I told you.
Hold on. Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Let's hold off on making any grand jokes about Mephisto because I think that there's a good chance that we're gonna get in that arena.
Joe.
I'm not kidding.
Nerd bet. I will saw off my left arm, Joe. No. Saw my left arm off.
I think that I don't want to spoil much for JD. But
No,
I
this
think
is
that
Disney's bread and butter, so we
there are
should get
specific things that if you know enough about obscure characters to recognize them as references to the past, you might recognize connections to characters that we joked about in the past.
Sure, but I don't think.
Just tell me, was I anywhere close with Margali Shardos or Amanda Sefton?
No,
Absolutely
well, you're not that far off.
Not even close.
I would say that you're kind of Margali Zardardos adjacent, at least in terms of like obscurity.
They do
with
they
one
do
of them.
have some actual casted characters that are mystical witch Marvel characters, so they did actually expand the thing a little bit.
But
I think that.
But they just went. They're here. There's no.
I have not done
connection.
research about all of the characters, but at least one of them is a direct adaptation of a Marvel character that I am familiar with, like from being a kid.
There are 3 that are.
Yeah.
And I don't mean teen. I mean.
Yeah.
Go ahead and name the actresses.
The 3 women.
Aubrey Plaza is definitely
Aubrey
one
Plaza
right now.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, adjacent to the show, watch the first Fifi's Hot Ones versus with Aubrey Plaza and what's her name? Patty LuPone.
Patty LuPone.
That's amazing. That's so good.
Damon.
I guess they were
good. Yeah.
They were roommates on the set, so yeah.
Damon, who is Aubrey Plaza?
She moved in with Patty LuPone.
Fun. Let's go back to Agatha here.
Matt, chill out. We're having a conversation about the same shit. So
we keep derailing. We're not getting anywhere. Damon, who is Aubrey Plaza's character?
Okay, so for starters, the truth is we don't know, but they have named her. She has a name, at least when she was introduced as in the first episode. I'm keeping this kind of vague. When she first enters, it could have been an alias. Rio Vidal.
Rio Vidal.
Yes, right.
There you go. Character. So technically speaking, if you're going by that, isn't Rio Vidal? Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't he? First, it was a male character, and wasn't he Agatha's rival as the Green Witch or something like that in the books?
I honestly have no idea. I'm not familiar with that name at all.
Yeah, because I looked it up. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Because it was known as the Green Witch. However, there are some other clues that are being sprinkled throughout of who she really might be.
Yeah, yes.
Very maybe more blatant than others, and I don't want to say exactly what that is.
I think a couple of there's at least one very blatant clue.
Exactly.
And but I'm torn on that, Damon, because of the name of another character in the show. And I'm not saying anything more about that. Damon, if you want to go to the chat, I posted it in the Agatha channel. I posted my thoughts they're blacked out. Anyway.
Okay. So Brian, who are the 3 women that you're referencing? Who are they? Those characters.
The witches, right? So there's the witches, right? So it's Patty LuPone and Shashir Zamita,
right?
And Ali An. Those are actual Marvel. They're like
figured they'd have to be. I only recognize Shashir's character's name.
Yeah, like
she's pretty famous out of all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, she's Jennifer Kale, and then there's that Lila Calderu, and then Alice Wu, and I think Alice Wu is the newest one.
Yep.
She's from like the last 10 years or so.
Alice Wu.
So Calderu is from the Darkhold, right?
But she was from. I think she's in. I'm looking it up right now, but she was. Yeah, she's pretty new through some of those.
Alice Wu Gulliver is her name.
Yeah, like when Doctor Strange was like out of commission and like the kind of the mystic stuff was kind of jumping to different people and they did all those magic one shots and annuals.
Yeah, Doctor Strange Last Days of Magic. He was created by James Robinson.
Yeah, that's why I read that issue. So she interesting. She's pretty new. But so when I saw the name, I recognized that. So they are actual new characters in the MCU, which is good because they need to do that.
The Magical Guardian of Hong Kong is who she was, and Detective Sergeant. And in this, they said she's a failed cop. They're like, I don't need a failed cop causing problems. So maybe she.
Yeah, no, it's her. And so it's kind of cool. And they give a slightly different background to her. But, they're going to, they're actually using characters. So who knows where all of this is going to go.
Right,
but
right.
I do, I had zero faith they would do that. And they actually did something.
Who is Patty LuPone? Who's Patty LuPone's character?
She's Layla Calderu or something like that.
Yeah, she's from, because when the names came up, I Googled them real quick, and you look and it's like 1970s, Marvel artwork. So they're from like old, I don't know, Agatha or Doctor Strange comics. Like it's like Clea, like they're just around, they're people like that. Like they're in the,
sure. She's in the world.
She's in the world. So that, using them is good.
She is Lila Calderu. I'm looking her up. Lila.
But that's
the one I couldn't remember.
I have a couple minutes left in the second episode because you guys came on, but because I didn't know there were two to watch.
From Marvel Premiere, created by Steve Englehart and Mike Friedrich. So yeah, back in the day.
Oh, Marvel Premiere, that's back in the day.
Yeah, it was very old.
Lila was the descendant of the first Baron of Mordo and his mistress Miarca, who had a daughter named Lila Murgo. She was named after. Lila often adopted the appearance of an aged crone when meeting with others to enhance her reputation. She's secretly a sexy gypsy queen. She also became part of the Sorceress Coven, which included Maria Rusoff. And I don't know who any of these people are. Lila cast.
I don't think they're going to reveal that Patty LuPone is secretly a sexy gypsy queen.
But I do think they are going to reveal that Lila cast the one-time usage spell that summoned the serpent crown from the wreckage of the ancient Antarctic base. She then joined powers. Yeah, she summoned the serpent crown. So there you go.
Oh, there you go.
They're getting into that.
I mean, and I guess these names are on IMDb, so it's fair game. But Sashir Zamata plays Jennifer Kale, who is a character that appeared in one of the first comic books I ever read, which was an issue of Marvel Team Up where Spider-Man meets Man-Thing. It was collected in a black and white digest from Tor Books. Back when, Marvel didn't do their own trade paperbacks, and it was like a bookshelf digest. And she is the guardian of the Nexus of all realities.
Steve Gerber, creator. He loves that shit.
Yeah, she's from Adventure into Fear. Yeah. Like she's from the 70s. And
Johnny Blaze's cousin.
Oh wow! Okay,
that's right. I forgot about that.
More often than not, she appears like a Daisy Duke type. Flannel shirt tied up around the belly button, Daisy Duke wearing bumpkin, but in reality, she is a scary metal bikini, pointy hat wearing, cape wearing sorceress.
Wasn't she in Marvel Zombies also? I think she was a version of
probably.
Her.
Yeah,
she's like the main character.
They tried to bring her back. There was that awful book from the mid 2000s called Witches, where Marvel tried to resurrect a bunch of female supernatural characters, and it was like a team book almost featuring Satana, Jennifer Kale, and a couple other ladies that I can't remember. But so yeah, they keep bringing Jennifer Kale back now and then. Yeah. But yeah, Jennifer Kale, one of the first comic book characters I ever read about in the early 80s, and I was like, when they said her name, I was like, oh shit. I know who that is.
I definitely recognize the name too. It's in there somewhere.
It's a deep cut.
The show is a ton of fun though. It's fun. It's fun as hell. And it's just like, look, it's pure performance. I don't think they're going to stretch this. I doubt we see like a Mephisto or anything like that. I think this is going to be a very personalized story that all points back to the return of a character that, of course, we knew was coming back. I mean, come on.
You know something, Matt? I was on board with that, but then I thought about something. And I don't know. Maybe this is just a red herring. So in that first episode, well, again, I don't want to say exactly where. So we know about Senior Scratchy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what? And I'm not going to say how. I'm not going to say who. But Nicholas Scratch was referred to more obvious in this.
Oh yeah, Nicholas Scratch.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning to wonder. I'm not going to say specifically what storyline. Although if you think about it real hard, you can probably see where this is going.
supposed to
Nicholas
picture Jennifer
Scratch.
Tail.
Nicholas Scratch is the son of Agatha Harkness in the comics, I
Yes.
believe.
And also, right, and he, the father or the creator,
The father of a group of characters who we may or may not meet in the first 2 episodes.
Okay, when Agatha later
way different than I would like. I wasn't expecting comic accurate, but I think this might be the case of them just lifting the name because it sounds cool.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
well, I don't know. Check it out. When Agatha later took to the Fantastic Four back to New Salem for a festival, they were confronted by the return of the Salem 7, and guess who was leading it?
Man, I'm trying not to give away huge details.
We're not-
because JD hasn't seen the episode.
This is for
yet.
the Fantastic Four,
Right.
and there's nothing spoiler about saying the Salem 7. Right? Does anybody know who the Salem 7 were before this?
It's in the
I
comic.
don't.
I do.
Come on.
If you had told me the Salem 7 were in the Agatha show in advance, that would have been a spoiler for me because
Okay.
I know the Salem 7.
Well, if that ruined it, JD, I apologize.
Seven's on the IMDb page, though.
Yeah, they're on the.
that's true.
Yeah.
I think
that is
because it's
also true.
it's one actor playing all 7, which is why I think they're just lifting the name.
Yeah, exactly. I
And
don't
they're
think
just
there's
like
any
Salem 7 sounds cool.
Yeah,
In
there's no
reality,
real
in the
relation.
comics, they're all like really shitty looking supervillains that
They're
are
generic.
magic based.
Yeah, very monster generic looking dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And so but I'm tickled at the use of the name.
If
though,
Scratch
so.
shows up, you
yeah.
better be wearing this. You better be in green and purple with gold legs.
Well, listen, all I'm going to say is that we were talking about like a personal story, and everybody has their reason for going on the Witch's Road, right?
Sure.
I have a weird feeling, and yes, we're talking about like bringing back one particular character, which I think we all kind of figure,
Yes.
just going in, there's, one unknown character who may or may not have ties to that. But I don't know, there might be something, and the reason I bring up Nicholas Scratch is that this might be a more personal Agatha story than we may realize.
Could be.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's definitely a personal Agatha story.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's going to be beyond her just getting back powers by the time she gets to the end of the Witch's Road. I have a weird feeling we're about to see what makes her tick, quote unquote.
My last little comment about Mephisto, without giving any specific spoilers. There are a couple of very specific things that are mentioned in the first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along that open the door to that character more than anything we believed about WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that they definitely teased something that's in
that was a deliberate.
Mephisto's ballpark.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely
And so-
deliberate.
Sure.
And yeah, it's absolutely like there's no mentioning that without invoking specific stuff. And so we will see. I'm curious to see what happens. I'm also curious to see which character they're referring to with those references, because I thought it was one character, and then I read up online and everyone else thinks it's a different character, and I was like, well, maybe I'm the weirdo. So I don't know. When more people have seen it, let's talk about it again next week.
All right, fair.
Yep.
What about Penguin? Wait, anybody watch Penguin?
Penguin is so good. Oh my
I
god,
gotta
it's
watch
so good.
Oh my god, yeah. Like I knew it was going to be fun. Like I, of course, loved the actor and the whole crew that put it together and whatever. But man, was it good! And it was it was a perfect exercise for the other things that we would normally bitch about, where you take a side character out of a movie and give them a show, and it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, are we doing this just because it's hot or popular or whatever? Not at all. This was so well thought out, written, acted, and just great. And they're not peppering it with a bunch of stuff like, oh, that guy? Yeah, that guy that we mentioned that's not going to show up. Like dropping references and shit. It's just a very personal Penguin story.
Well, and they actually say Batman. It's not like they can't say Batman.
Of course. No, but I'm saying
they said, yeah, that bat-headed freak.
Right.
They mentioned Batman multiple times.
I'm not talking about like hinting, so you're walking around
No,
like, is that character that person?
It's kind of like, as opposed to like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
Right.
Or even the Netflix shows where for some reason why are you scared to say the word Avengers?
Right. We just
act
keep
like
going
you're part of the world
after the
Like, fake it till you
New
make
York
it.
event or whatever. No, I mean, like, this
the
takes
Battle
place
of
in
New
the
York.
universe.
Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Just say the word Avengers. Who gives a fuck?
They couldn't. So here,
But
they're not concerned
but
about
this
any
is
of that.
like, yeah, this is Batman.
Yeah.
The Riddler. Like, it all happened.
But
It's
this-
all there.
This makes me want
But this-
shows for all the bad guys. Just line them up after this. I'm in.
Even the weird Riddler dude.
Even the weird. Yes.
Not the Riddler. No, I didn't know.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
No, thank you.
Paul Dano would do it. You know, he would. I'm sure.
yeah,
too.
I'm sure.
The
he would.
guy's never said no to anything, so
No.
he'll do anything.
They've
he
been
wants.
doing press for this.
Say what,
They've
Trevor?
been doing
has he
press
done?
for this.
Trevor, what?
They've been doing press for this, and they talked about how they have big plans to keep expanding this universe
Love
because
it.
it's so disconnected from everything else that
Fine.
James Gunn's doing that
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah,
like they basically got the
and-
green light.
So Matt Reeves
like-
has said it's planned for a trilogy of movies, which means there's lots of time to do spin-off shows.
Yeah.
Like a little 8-episode events here and there. And I think that if they're all this good, I hope they do it.
Give me Killer Moth now. I want Killer Moth.
They need to stop messing around and do an actual like Gotham Central show,
Yeah.
like not one that turns
I
into Arkham.
100% agree.
Yes.
You know, like do a real like the characters are there, you know, and it doesn't have to be Montoya and whatever. Like you have it be Driver and you know the rest of like just pick a couple and just go
Sure.
and do they could be the you know protagonist in a Riddler show.
Absolutely. Show
You
us
know,
like the
like-
horror of what cops have to deal with these type of bad guys in Gotham. Like that
Yeah.
cop procedural. Holy shit.
And you know what?
know?
And they turned on the signal and Batman's not around.
Right.
We don't know where he is.
Right.
You know, like, and
Right.
meanwhile, the bodies are dropping. Like, do 8 episodes of that.
Yeah. Love it.
I think that would be amazing. I would be totally into that.
Yeah, I would be down for that. Didn't they?
I'm not sorry, JD.
I was just gonna say, didn't they say that they've officially segmented off the Matt Reeves Batman
Yes.
from James Gunn?
This is-
It's its
Oh yeah,
own
it's
thing.
its own
like
separate
Totally
thing.
separate.
It's
called
its
the
own
Batman,
separate thing.
the Crime Universe or something like that. They gave it like a name.
I don't think that's the official name. I think they're just like think of it because the Batman Crime Universe is such a terrible name. I think they mentioned something like that, you know.
I
But-
mean, if you're going to do a fan Wikipedia page about it, you need to have it called something. So
Well,
they
of
have
course.
to give you a dumb
True.
name.
Right, it has to be snappy
But-
though. You got to
But
be better than
Right.
James Gunn said that from the day one that like Peter and I are doing this. We're rebooting all of these things. We're relaunching. We start Peacemaker as part of
James
it.
James Gunn is creating the superhero DC film
But you know,
universe.
Right.
he said the Joker's separate and the Batman is separate, and like there's other projects that are not like Harley is not part of this, but we love it, but it's not included in our
Right.
thing. And I think,
Right.
And
you
I
know,
don't
we
I don't want that
them to be
in
separate if he's
this
going to do good stuff.
I don't want that in this Bat universe. I don't need Superman to show up in this Batman universe. I don't even need like a Killer Croc in this universe. Any like the really, when we start to get to superhero-y stuff. Don't need it.
We talked about when the Batman first came out, we talked about like what it would look like if in the sequel they kind of started teasing more supernatural elements, and we talked about things like Clayface
Right.
and whatnot. And that was before James Gunn came on board to revitalize the DCU and reboot everything.
Right.
And so now that the Batman is its own separate thing, I don't think it needs to have any supernatural elements at all, ever.
No. Absolutely not.
I think that this can just be street level grounded. Like the most outlandish thing about it can be a guy in a cape fighting crime because he's
Right.
got mental.
And I remember how wrong you told me I was when we initially had that argument. But
No, I mean that was then. But now we're getting the superhero Batman stuff, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's a separate thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
God.
I'm
Is that
totally
right?
The
fine.
name is worse.
the Batman
The name
Epic
is weird.
Crime Saga, that can't be what they're calling
The
it.
Batman epic.
That
crime
cannot
saga.
be what they're calling it. Tell me that's IGN just naming something. That is
It's in
terrible.
quotes.
Yeah,
Matt.
don't worry about it. That's not. That's
Barf.
irrelevant to the work. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
According to Entertainment Weekly, the Batman director Reeves, alongside producing partners,
BECS.
plan to launch the Yeah.
The BECS.
Whatever.
Thank you,
It
Jimbo.
doesn't matter, guys.
It's not going to say the
really
Batman Crime Epic Universe presents the Batman 2.
Yeah,
Like,
it's going to have the DC bullet at the end of it, just like everything else.
I
it doesn't
demand
matter.
DC Studios.
I want actors saying it out loud in the movies. Like, now that we're living in the
I'm not
Batman
in the
Epic
I'm not
Crime
in the
Universe.
BCU, but I am in the BECS. Yeah,
They
sure.
do Crisis on Infinite Earth. I want that exact subtitle. All
Sure,
of
sure,
to the
sure,
bottom.
yeah.
When
Yeah.
Guys, you're giving me- I'm getting
Crisis on Earth Bex.
You got like Bullock
getting high just
putting
thinking
out a
about the
cigar.
nonsense.
It's like, you know what it's like to patrol the streets in the Batman Epic Crime Universe? Ah!
So back to the Penguin.
Saga.
At first, I
Epic
was
Crime
like,
Saga. Sorry.
I love Kristen Milioti. I think she's phenomenal. But at first, I was a little bit bummed that we weren't getting like Sophia Gigante, you know, like the Tim Sale Long Halloween
Sure,
Sophia Gigante.
sure.
But she is so goddamn scary.
She's great.
as Sophia Falcone.
She's great. Yeah.
Oh man,
She's
She
great.
was so good.
And this is a great, like, this is where you do the crime family crap. Like, this world, perfect. Give me, the Marconis and the Falcones. Like, yes, let's go. I'm in.
Yeah, the Maronis. Clancy Brown
Maronis,
played
yeah,
Sal
pardon me.
Maroni, Boss Maroni.
Clancy Brown, great. Anything you want to put him in. I don't cast him as the same person in the same thing. I don't care. You mean two different people.
Yeah, I know. Oddly enough, Clancy Brown showed up in character as the police chief from Sleepy Hollow. I didn't know that was part of the Bex universe. It's so strange. But yeah, no. Put Clancy Brown in anything. I will watch Clancy Brown do anything.
It's a great show though so far.
Man, that first episode, it was so good.
And again, you forget.
And just that.
You forget like how much Colin Farrell disappears into the suit and the look and the character itself. Like, I cannot see Colin Farrell. I can't see it. He's gone.
I can. He's got this scar that runs across his face from left to right and goes under his nose.
Yeah.
And it's played off as a scar, but in my mind, I know that that's because that's how the prosthetics attach, and I can't not see that. But other than that, like, I agree with you. That's just a me thing. It's just like, well, that's where the prosthetics.
That doesn't bother me at all. And I think they're doing that to give him the sort of penguin bird nose kind of look thing a little bit. But
well, I mean, he could have a big bird nose and not have that friggin' scar across his face.
I mean, I guess.
I'm glad he's working out. I will watch that tonight. I do wish they had cast Richard Kind as the Penguin instead, because he makes everything better. But
Richard Kind does make everything better.
He could be
Colin
like Farrell dressed up as Richard
Bronze
Kind
Age.
they found in a river. Yeah,
Richard Kind could be like a Bronze Age.
Yeah, Richard Kind.
Trick umbrella.
He'd have to have
top
the
hat.
tuxedo with tails. Yeah, you know.
Like, like a Burgess Meredith, right?
All right, before we get out of here, the kids want to know why you're upset.
Man, it's very, very good.
The kids want to know why you're upset with Fabian Anesthesia before we get out.
I'm not upset.
Yeah, you are.
So,
you're breaking up with your boyfriend, from what we heard. But like, what's going on?
All right. So last week, Marvel announced a new Champions book. It's actually called New Champions because they have one naming convention and that's it. It's add an adjective and it's either amazing, astonishing, or new. That's it. And or I guess now we could do exceptional. But anyway,
ultimate,
all new,
exceptional,
all new, sure,
all new.
sure. Oh well, we already did all new champions though, so we can't do that.
That's where we are. All right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We got to remember which ones we've already done before.
Just go with new.
Anyway, so there's a new champions book coming out, and they are all new characters. And they are characters. And I groan just saying these words out loud, but I'm a cranky old man, and you can ignore me. But they are characters who really only existed up until this point as concepts that appeared on variant covers.
Oh, barf.
Well, no, look.
Is it going to be like the cheeseburger Ghost Rider and like Donald Duck as Wolverine, or like what are we talking about here?
No, I mean like there was a line of variant covers one month that were like young characters inspired by existing characters, like a young man called Moon Squire, who was sort of dressed in Moon Knight coded costumes. There's like a Ghost Rider kind of looking girl. There's a Captain Marvel, but wearing like the old Ms. Marvel black shirt with a lightning bolt.
Gotcha. Collectible
and
alert,
so
by the
these
way,
are
for
characters
those
that are these are young characters inspired by, not necessarily directly connected to. They're not saying like these are sidekicks. They're saying like these are characters that like took their favorite hero, turned it into an identity of their own, etc. Et anyway, they are appearing as for real characters in New Champions #1 for the first time, or maybe they'll appear somewhere else. I don't know. But yeah, it does sound like Children of the Atom.
Speaking of X-Men characters that came and went.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, that was a flash.
Sweat that
Yeah,
off
it
like
was.
a bad fever, didn't we?
Anyway, the point of the story, the part of the story where Fabian Nicieza comes in is that Marvel has been releasing house ads for the New Champions, and it's like a full page splash with the phrase "Change the World" in big letters, and inside the letters you can see like vignettes of all the characters in the background. It's a pretty nice looking little ad. And Fabian got on Twitter and he got all upset because in 1990, when he was creating the marketing campaign for the New Warriors, he created a marketing campaign because he was in marketing at the time. And so he was responsible for writing his own ad copy. And so he wrote a series of ads that appeared in Marvel Comics that were, it was a splash page of the New Warriors standing in a subway car. And the tagline at the bottom was, all they want to do is change the world. And so Fabian took to Twitter and he's like, how dare they steal my marketing idea? It's one thing for them to ignore the characters and mishandle the characters for 30 years, but they want to use the marketing campaign. It's like, and I'm like, my guy, change the world is not exactly up and away.
Okay, well, now
truth, justice, and the American way.
To defend him,
it's not a catchphrase.
To defend Fabian, just to speak in his defense, devil's advocate here, devil's avocado, right? He also got upset when Eric Clapton wrote "Change the World." He freaked out and said, "How dare Eric Clapton do this? I can't believe." So at least he's consistent, like he's consistently upset with people trying to change the world.
I'm like, normally I align with Fabian on a lot of stuff. Like he's a progressive sort of dude. And like, I find him very enjoyable online. And I read that and I was like, I can't believe that this is his take. Need I remind everyone that this is 34 years later?
Yeah, Fabian's been has he been kind of a crybaby about a lot of stuff in the past like 5 years?
Not that I know of. Not that I can remember.
He didn't used to be.
But I think he's very protective of the New Warriors, which rightfully so.
Well, we must protect the New Warriors at all costs, right?
I mean, look, it's his baby. It's like he birthed this popular concept into the world, and they lasted for a long time, and they've got a pretty healthy fan following. But change the world is not a catchphrase. No. It's like, what are you complaining about, man?
It's not.
And so like, I want to know, am I the asshole?
No, you're not the asshole. No. Okay. If this was another New Warriors book and they did that, maybe. This is a New Champions book and they're just saying change the world. Give me a goddamn break. Who cares? I mean, if it said at what price victory on the cover, would people get bent out of shape about that? No. Who gives a shit, Fabian? Shut up, man. Shut up. Also, New Warriors, whatever.
No, okay, now you shut up. I read that and I was just kind of stunned that he would have that stance. It's like, are superheroes not supposed to change the world? I don't understand.
I mean, maybe he's just trying to be relevant. Who knows? But good for him.
I don't know. I just thought it was dumb. I thought it was dumb, and I wanted to know if I was alone, or if he's justified. It's like, it would be different. Like if they came up, if the New Champions marketing tagline was "Heroes for the 24th" or whatever,
sure.
Heroes for some modern equivalent of Heroes for the 90s. Then I'd be like, oh, well, okay.
Well, okay.
But we're not even this is even more vague than that.
But Mosaic fan art is right. Fabian wins because Night Thrasher is an Avenger for 5 issues in this miniseries. So guess what? He won. All right. So,
I mean, that doesn't mean that the team's going away.
he showed up with leather jackets and everything. So I mean, there it is. All right, I got to get out of here.
Leather jackets full of circuitry, Matt.
Oh,
Come on.
God.
My takeaway on his on the post that your issue is I'm glad I'm off Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I wish I was off Twitter.
Same. All right, kids. We'll see you next week. We got a back issue show coming this week. And speaking of the Penguin, we're going to look at the Penguin through the ages, how he has grown, and how he's changed.
It's called, the official title of the episode is "The Life and Times of Oswald Cobblepot."
It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. So tune in for that. We'll gang hang next Saturday. Plenty to talk about. We need to get in some full on Agatha spoilers so we can start experiencing, conspiracy theories and shit.
I start my new job on Monday, so I'm just telling you, until we actually make it happen, a new episode is purely theoretical.
So we'll see you in a month, guys. Thanks. All right.
Bye, guys.
All right, I'm out. Talk to you guys later.